welcome everyone. This is the Hobo Prepper, and I am Friar Tuck. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so I'm gonna try. Let me scooch down a little bit. I got my pack right here as well. So, all right. So I am in Andalusia. I'm actually about to leave Andalusia. So, what am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about kind of what the trail has been like. I kind of want to ask you guys' advice as well. So I know that I said I would do something by the end of the weekend, but getting acclimated to a trail is something different. Because this is my first time switching from one trail to another. And each trail has its own learning curve. So, for example, when I crossed into the Alabama line, made it across the line, I'm like, yay, I'm in Alabama, it should be easy, nothing but road walk. Well, actually, like the first 2 or so days, you're doing some dirt roads and you're doing trails like what you saw in the video yesterday. But you are not really seeing a lot of, you're not seeing a lot of roads. And then finally, once you come to getting out of the forest and you're coming into Carolina, that is the first time in which you are getting to see the actual road walk that you have been expecting the whole time. So it has been an experience and a half. So when I first got on, I was learning how to do the GPX file. So let me share with you guys some tools that will help you should you ever get into a similar situation, especially if you want to bug out, if you want to travel on trail or you don't want to pay for the GPX file, but yet you know where to go get the trail map for free and get a GPX file. So I have an iPhone, and it also works for Android as well. It's called GPX Viewer. Okay, so GPX Viewer is not really going to be that detailed. It's not going to give you a lot of information, stuff like that. If you guys remember the hi Paranoid, I am so glad to see you, my inside man, how are you? So you're not late, I just started. So but anyways, the GPX viewer, the way that it works is it's just gonna if they break it up into many different points, different I don't know. If they break it up, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want it to be parsed out. You can't do it to the end of one point. You just click on the pin and you go to the other point. So make sure that you do not you don't want to do it as one file. That was my mistake, and that was why I was having trouble. The nice thing about the Alabama road walk map is that every time you've got to make a turn is where a pin is, and then it just kind of winds you around. Now there is a second tool that I use because there is not a lot of information on the Alabama road walk. So one of the things is that for some reason it's not updating that there's people here. Are you still here, Paranoid? So anyways, so there is it's one of these nomad sites. I was looking up just to do like a Google search versus doing a YouTube search on doing the what's it called, doing the Alabama road walk, right? And so that was somebody, it was a hobo or somebody who traveled the trail, decided to mark all the safe spots along the route that he found a place to stay. And so some people actually use it, and I think it's something that is coming in hand. It's very valuable to me. So between the GPX viewer, which kind of shows me, that there are 3 legs. I don't see people. However, yeah, me either. So okay, now there's 2 people showing up. It must be delayed. Okay, so yeah, it might be. I don't know what it is. But anyway, so the map that shows you all the different points along the way, the points of interest. Okay, yeah, okay, so YouTube, yeah, well, that's probably explains why I'm starting to get some subscribers, because they probably broke their filter, because I think I'm still under warning, at least for a couple more weeks. But between those two things, that's what's really been helping me navigate my way on the Alabama road walk. So the GPX viewer, again, now there are some points in the file that are broken up, so you kind of just gotta, you just use the points as like points of reference to turn, and just kind of keep an eye on the yellow blazes. The yellow blazes are pretty easy to move along. And you pay attention because they're kind of sparsed out. Maybe every quarter to a half mile you might see a no, I have not, Thomas. Nice to see you, Thomas. Glad to see you. I haven't had a chance to catch up on any of your videos yet. I just finally got into decent signal, so, and that happened last night, and I had to catch up on some of the YouTube. But anyways, I ended up, so all the different churches that are along the way. So last night I stayed at Carolina Baptist Church, and Carolina Baptist Church is, they're fine. I ended up talking to the associate pastor. I ended up talking to one of the congregation members. I was like, hey, what's going on? Da 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 da. And so they they're curious. Are you a squatter, or are you a hiker? Like, they asked me, are you going home? I'm like, no, I'm on trail. And they're like, oh, okay. And so the guy kind of let me know where he was going on trail. Or where he'd been. So he told me he'd been to the Pinhoti, and to watch out for wasp nests, because he leaned up against a tree and accidentally knocked one down, which I would have loved to have been the fly on the wall to see that one. No, that would have been funny. I tried not to laugh. But the people are going to check you out. Just make sure that you're upfront, you're honest. Just let them know. Make sure that you're working around them and their boundaries, because you are a guest in their house, even if you are sleeping like outside. And man, Paranoid, I am following your advice of trying not to go too far at once, just because last night it was 45 degrees. It was supposed to be 49, but it was 45 degrees. I froze my butt off. I'm having trouble sleeping because it's so damn cold. And I'm still trying to figure out how to keep warm. Now, I am using my so let me get into kind of how everything happened, because I haven't really updated you guys. Blue wasp as you get up there. Okay, will do. Okay, so once I crossed the trail, because I was screwing up on the road walk, I missed my turn. But I was taught, as soon as I crossed in, I met a couple of hunters who it's like 15 miles to the nearest gas station. I'm like, well, that's my goal, because I only had like a half a cup of rice, and rice, it's good. It'll give you a lot of energy. It probably could have lasted me 2 days on that half a cup of rice if I really would have. But I really don't want to. I don't want to like put my body through that much stress and through that much stuff. So I walked to Bradley, and then because that's where they say, oh yeah, it's the gas station's in Bradley. No, it turned out to be in Wing. And so I get there, I get drenched. A guy gives me a ride to Open Pond, which it's a really, really nice national forest. I got to meet a lady there. Her name's Peggy. We connected really well. She just, you ever meet somebody, it's just like you could talk for hours on end, and just, we both were lonely in the fact that like we hadn't had any human interaction in a while, but yet we're both really not that social of people, which we had so much in common. It was kind of scary. It was almost like I was a younger male version of her, just as far as our likes and the way that we did things and stuff like that. But, we get to talking, and I was telling her about my tent, and she's like, well, I've got a hammock. You should try a hammock. I says, I've never tried a hammock. So she lets me try it, and I sit in it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like this. And she's like, well, I got another hammock, and she couldn't find it, so she gave me the one that she actually wanted to keep, because, like me, she gave her word that she was going to give me something, and so she followed through on it, and I truly appreciate that. And I did notice it. And so this is how I end up getting the hammock. So for the last 2 nights, I've been sleeping in a hammock, and I haven't been getting much sleep, but the sleep I do get is really, really deep. And I'm hoping tonight I actually get to do get some pretty good sleep. Now, one thing that's bothering me, and maybe you guys can give me some advice, is so my knees, I don't like to lock them. I kind of have, the reason why I'm a side sleeper is because I got to keep my knees bent because of all the walking that I do. with all the walking, it hurts my knees. So keeping them bent kind of gives them the relief from the stress and all that stuff. So the way that I'm end up sleeping, I'm trying to sleep on my side, but I'm kind of like sleeping, instead of sleeping like this, I'm kind of sleeping at an angle like this, but across, like you were telling me to do, paranoid. And I'm worried about my knees, because for the last couple of days, my knees and my legs have been really, really bothering me. Now, thanks to a donation in my tip jar, because all the money that I had that I was going to go to Walmart and buy gear with ended up getting spent along the way, because there were places where I couldn't use food stamps, or I had to pay for an extra night at the Blackwater River, biofreeze. Okay. Oh yes, okay, I know what that's for. But anyways, so I end up, I ended up going through all that money that I was planning on using, because just like there's places where you just can't use food stamps. Like in Wing, I spent like 25, almost $30, because I bought myself a pizza and a Coke, and then I bought me some rice and then some other snacks and stuff that I needed, because I'm trying to keep my calories and keep my food intake in keep it up as best as possible, so that I have the energy to keep doing the distances I'm doing, because I'm finally hitting that 20-mile mark, and I really like that, and I want to make sure that I keep doing it. But anyways, because I got that tip in my tip jar, I was able to fully afford a pair of shoes. So let me show you what I got here. So I had to go to Walmart. I got the Ozark Trail. These are the off-road shoes. They're light as hay. They got decent insoles. I mean, they're not great, but it'll do. From what I've done my research through YouTube and stuff like that, is that these things will probably last me about 300-400 miles, and then I need to replace them. I'm just gonna have to get used to it, because I noticed as soon as I took the boots off, I left the boots right there next to the trash can in case somebody wanted them, and put these shoes on, and like I got here in like record time. My legs don't hurt and my knees aren't hurting as bad, but I'm still kind of walking funny, because the way you walk in boots versus the way you walk in shoes is a little bit different because of the raised heel. And so I'm kind of having to reacclimate to actually having tennis shoes. But so now I think that as far as me going, my speed, and my body and everything else like that, I've already learned this lesson once, but I've relearned it again. Is rice is kind of like your superfood. Okay, so if you want to look at a diet, especially if you're going to have to bug out, or if you've got to go long distance and you don't want to carry the food weight, grab yourself a pound of rice, and that should last you 3 to 5 days. I used to use it as emergency. Now I eat, like for lunch and sometimes dinner, I end up eating my rice. You give yourself a minute to digest it. So I always say, like, take an hour break for lunch so that you can cook your rice and then digest it. I'm now put oregano in it. That way I make sure I've got my good gut health because of the issues I was having on the Florida Trail. And then also to make sure that I retain water, I'm also putting salt in it as well. So let me pull it out here, but hold on. So this is what I'm using for my spices. So every time I make myself rice, I put a crap ton of the oregano in there, and then I put about 3 or 4, because this has got a grinder on it, but this is sea salt. I found it at Dollar General, but I just sit there, I grind like 3 or 4 times, and I mix that in with my rice, because you want the salt so that it actually helps you retain the water and fixes your salt loss. So that in itself is a main staple when you travel, whether you're hiking, whether you're bugging out, whether you're going long distance, for whatever reason. If you're trying to make sure that you give your body the right fuel, enough fuel, and the right nutrients, like I said, a half a cup of rice a day, and mixed with this. I mean, you might get a little bit of hunger pains just because you get hungry, but you won't. you'll have the energy. Your muscles won't be as sore. You'll be able to go. It's almost like drinking a Red Bull for me, or an energy drink, because it gives you that energy. And so, now they're talking about, at least I heard on Popular Report, is that they want to say that rice, dairy, and meat, which are probably the three most important things that you can eat, are contributing to global warming, and so therefore, we need to start like stamping that out. Well, if they take out rice, that is an important part of your of any diet. Especially in hard times. It's kind of like beans. You want your beans, you want your rice, because those two things, you'll get your protein from your beans, and then you'll get so Paul, okay, good to know. It's just you got to have those things. It's absolutely important. So this is something that if they're going to start trying to stamp that out, you might want to start stocking up on it. Get as much rice as possible, because when the day comes and you got supply chain shortages, you can't get your food, at least you can survive off of rice and still be functional, because it's a primary food, at least for me on trail, and that's what's been allowing me to get to the 20 miles. The other thing is I'm going to have to, and Dollar General's right next door, so I'm probably going to have to get myself some oatmeal, like brown sugar oatmeal, because I'm not a big fan of just like plain old oatmeal. I want to have some sort of flavor with it. I like my donuts, but I'm finding out that my donuts, it's just like it's junk food. It's not doing anything for me other than just I love my coffee and donuts in the morning, but the donuts aren't really helping. I'm gonna have to start doing oatmeal in the morning, especially while I'm on the road walk. Now, one of the big things that you really need to be thoughtful of, because if you're thinking about weight on your pack, okay, and especially if you're bugging out or if you're hiking, the more water that you carry, the harder it's going to be. Now, there was points where I would go like 10 to 15 miles before I would see any type of drinkable water at certain portions of the Florida Trail, especially towards the end. So one of the things that I do is I have a 30-ounce Gatorade bottle that I drink out of, and then I also have a 20-ounce bottle. Now, I try and use the 30-ounce bottle as my drinking water and the 20-ounce bottle for cooking and cleaning. Now, when I get a chance, I'm going to have to show you guys how I'm able to use very, very little water. And I mean, it's really simple. Like in the bottom of your pot, you maybe put like a quarter inch to half an inch of water, and then you just sit there and rub with your fingers. Now, it's going to take you a while to clean it, but if you are running low on water, especially if you're trying to find drinkable, clean water along the way, even using a filter or out of a stream or out of a lake or something like that, you really want to conserve on the water that you use for cooking and for cleaning, especially for cleaning. So if you don't have it, but because I'm not going to put my cooking set back together without cleaning it. So that's one thing that I really focus on. At the dumpsters, or normally places like that get thick black styrofoam. Cut them out to make soles for your shoes. You can thank me later, like walking on carpet. I may have to look like that, because I mean, Dollar General's right next door. I'll look into that, paranoid, before I get back on the road, because I got about 7 miles before I get to Mount Zion Methodist Church, which is where I'm going to be camping for the night. But as far as what you need to do and how you need to plan your dieting, that is extremely important when it comes to whether you have to bug out or just you hit hard times and you're like, well, I don't have a lot of money for food, or food is so expensive, it takes everything I have. You want to be careful. You want to be thoughtful about what it is that you put in your body. And this is one of those things that if I could offer you some advice on how to be able to do it as in real world experience, because if I wouldn't have taken the wrong turn and ended up in Wing, I would have been coming out of the forest day before yesterday. And I would have been completely out of food. I probably would have gone a day without food. Just if I would have forced myself to follow the trail proper, because I was under the impression, based upon what I learned on YouTube, is that, oh yeah, there's plenty of gas stations. No, you don't reach your first gas station that's right on the trail. You don't reach your first gas station until you get into the south end of Andalusia. Now, if you go to at the Carolina Baptist Church, if you want to go 2 miles off trail and then 2 miles back, there is a gas station there. Or if you want to go into Wing, which is like 15 miles out of your way, and then you got to go another 10 miles up the road to reconnect with the trail, and then you still got to go through the forest. Those are your only options when you first get get on the Alabama road walk. And so that is something that if you're doing this trail, that's something that you need to be thoughtful, is that for probably the first 4 or 5 days of the trail, you should have enough food. And then the way I'm looking at it now is it looks like at most I may need like a day, maybe 2 days worth of food, so I don't really have to carry that extra weight along with me as I go up, because there's going to be more access to gas stations along the way, especially if I'm doing 20 plus miles a day. So that's one thing to do. Now, for those of you that have, as part of your SHTF plan, is to bug out, or to be prepared to bug out, or to leave on a moment's notice, one thing that I would strongly recommend is the look at the routes in which you plan on going. Like, run different scenarios. Okay, because like if something like Ohio happens in your area, what are you going to do? Are you going to go north? Are you going to go south? Are you going to go east? Are you going to go west? What state are you going to go into? How are you going to get yourself to safety if you don't want to be exposed to those toxins? The other thing that you also want to look into is just other scenarios. If there's civil war, if there is, what around you, like if the way that the wind is going and the way that the weather patterns are, how are you going to not get caught up? Like, so if they drop a bomb at Eglin, and the wind is moving northwest, that means or northeast, that means it's going to go through Alabama, it's going to go through Georgia, and it's probably going to go through probably the Carolinas. Well, if you don't want to get caught in that fallout as the radiation kind of moves, as the wind carries it, especially if they're doing things that instead of like hitting the ground and exploding, it explodes in midair, and then just kind of like like an atom bomb or an EMP, one of those, that right there, that's going to allow the wind to carry it even further than what it's already being carried. So how do you plan for that? And then if you're going to do it, are you going to do it on trails? You're going to do it on road walks? Do you want to do incognito because you're more worried about the authorities or possible invaders? Things like that. These are things that you need to be thoughtful of, and you should go out there and run those trails and run those routes at least once. Because here's the thing: if I had to go back and redo everything that I just did through the Florida Trail, I would be taking different routes at certain points, because now I know what to expect. So Bradford Bay, the area you heard me complain about that almost made me quit, that's also called Tate's Hell. And everybody skips Tate's Hell because it's Tate's Hell. Even off-roaders that like to go out there and do mudding and stuff like that, they have to bring somebody with them because they get stuck and all this other stuff. And so, everybody knows that's the Apalachicola forest is one of the Apalachicola forest is one of the more dangerous areas to be if you're by yourself. So if you ran the trail, you would know that's an area I don't want to do, so that when the actual situation happens, the alternative routes, all the different detours. It allows you to be able to practice, keep yourself in shape, and also you get to see how am I going to resupply along the way, because you can't carry a month's worth of food or a week's worth of food on you. And who knows if the plant life is contaminated to where you can't even eat the natural stuff that the forest offers you. Who knows what the water is going to be like if it gets contaminated. You need to be able to plan for these different things if you are planning on bugging out should the situation get bad enough. Now, this isn't meant to deter you or to make you think that this is impossible. It's just to really give you food for thought to kind of help you guys understand the best way to properly prepare yourselves for the possibility of these things coming, because as Biden and we're finding out through these document leaks, or might be something in there you can use. Off fall winter gray dot apparel 70% off hardware. Okay, picnic paper 10%. Okay, triangle socks 70% off select air. Okay, 25% off. Okay, wow. Okay, where do I? Okay, school stationery. Where's this all at? Is this just at okay, I can't scroll back. I'm gonna have to look. I was seeing it, but I wanted to finish my thought. These are things that you as an individual, whether you're however you plan your SHTF and how you're going to handle it. We're finding out that the things that are going on in Ukraine, and that we've actually had soldiers. NATO has already been fighting. I will have to. No, I do not see the link. But I will. If you email it to me, I will. I'll make sure to put it in the description of this. That way, people can see it. Because in the chat, I don't think that there's any links that you can actually click on. But this thing is. This is with the Pentagon leak that's going on right now. We're finding out that NATO's been getting their ass kicked in Ukraine by Russia, and so that the writing's already on the wall. If we decide to go to war against Russia, and China decides to join in, it's game over for NATO. That means Europe. That means Canada. That means the United States. It's game over for all of us. And it's just a matter of do we just want to play it through and make sure that that's really the way it's going to be. And what happens when they decimate us? They're going to come in the same way that we come in under a humanitarian flag, and they're going to occupy us that way as a way to kind of put us back together after we've already fallen apart. So, this is the causation chain that is already starting and has been in motion for several months, if not for a couple of decades. And so, as individuals, you have the only thing that you have is how do you respond to it, and how are you going to react to it? Because you're going to have UN peacekeepers that are going to come here to put maybe if there's civil war going on, or if there's different groups and different factions that are warring, kind of like the bullshit that we were fed about Bosnia and Kosovo, and all those different things. There are so many different variables and factors, but the way that this causation chain is going, and to know that NATO is getting its ass kicked in Ukraine, that tells you that it's not going to end well for us. So you better be prepared. And so I'm just trying to share with you the things that I'm learning on the road that could be applicable to you guys as preppers, as somebody who is preparing for doomsday, because essentially doomsday is coming. Maybe not the way the religious sects think that it's coming, but doomsday is coming. Okay, and according to Billy Meyer, the whole northern hemisphere is supposed to be like a nuclear wasteland. Well, because you've got Europe, you've got the United States, Canada, you've got Russia, and then you've got China, and all of us. That's who's all at war right now. Who's going to war, and we're all going to end up dropping nukes, because as soon as somebody drops a nuke, the other person's going to the other side's going to respond with the nuke, and it's going to become a nuclear wasteland. And who knows what the southern hemisphere is going to look like, because has at least from what I've read, has been at war and had more issues than the Northern Hemisphere. The Northern Hemisphere has usually had its shit together until recently. And there was even an article that I had a chance to listen to on YouTube from this new channel I subscribe to. I shared it. I didn't share that article, but I shared one of their videos in the community tab a few days ago, and they were talking about how this is the first time in over 500 years that a Western power has not had a seat at the table for the next global order that is coming. China and Russia, they are the next global order. They're the ones that are going to be pushing everything the way that they are, and it's going to be it's going to be their show to run. The West has, because of the craziness of our politicians and our elites and how psychotic they've all gotten, they have taken away our opportunity to have a seat at the table, or at least to have a Western influence in the global order. And Russia is saying that it will manage the pretty much the Northern Hemisphere, which is Europe and its lands, and plus it's probably also going to have to worry about Alaska and northern Canada, and so I guess that leaves the southern part or whatever's left over for China, and they will do their thing, and so the West no longer has a seat at the power table. And again, this is the first time in 500 years. That's what the meeting was that Vladimir and Xi Jinping had, where everybody was making fun of him because it was like a first date where he walks him to his car. Well, no, these guys were sitting there hammering out the final details of what it was that they actually wanted to do, and how they wanted to restructure the global order. And again, it's not the West. So with that being said, what are you going to do about it as far as when it comes to your doorstep? When war comes to your doorstep, when famine comes to your doorstep, how are you going to deal with it? And this is why we're having this conversation, and this is kind of why I started this channel, to kind of help you guys navigate it, by learning from my real world experience. Because there's a difference between going out and camping for a week and going and day hiking, and then you get to go back to your nice cozy home. I don't get to go back to my nice cozy home. I am out here, and I'm out here until I figure out a way off, or a way out. And so that gives you a whole different reality than, oh, let's just go play in the woods for a weekend. I can get dirty. I can deal with the cold. I can deal with this. Bull Pony Gold 2020 says June, beginning of sorrow. Possibly. Meyer says that the next world war will start in November and end 3 years, 11 months later, in October, and it will start off with kinetic warfare and end in nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare. So let's say this November is when it finally kicks off. Right now the West is kind of trying to postpone so that it can prepare and get itself ready for its war footing. We're just now starting to get our war economy going and restructure our manufacturing, plus some of the other things that are going on. You listen to the guy that you trust and that you follow the best, and that you think has the right answers. And for me, I follow Meyer for that reason, because I think that what he speaks is the truth and nothing but the truth. But I've also done my research into him, but that's a personal thing for me. You have to have your own personal way to where you're going to be able to process this stuff. Okay, so these are some different things for you as an individual that you can that you can really work on and think of for yourself. Because everybody has predictions. Everybody has oh, well, I think that this is going to happen. Now you could say, well, I know this guy and he's been into the future, and we can prove it and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's you can take a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. And these understandings, these realizations of truth, or the way that you think the truth is, it's a personal decision. It's something personal that you have to come to terms with, just like your own spirituality. Just because I'm not Christian and you are, doesn't mean either one of us is right or wrong. It is a personal decision, and it's a personal relationship, and it's an individual thing, because as much as we like to think that we operate on a collective, there is more individualism, which I think that is one of the big things in that the American way of life has really taught the rest of the world, is that you have collective consequences, but you have individual duties and responsibilities, and the individual has to come to their own terms. That as a collective, you cannot force or browbeat anybody into anything, because it never works. If I try and force you into my way of thinking versus your way of thinking, all it's going to do is create animosity, so on and so forth. So again, you're gonna have to look at the people that you consider to be your gurus, and if you think that they're right, and when that day comes, if it turns out they're not right, well then, just like me, this is what Meyer says. If it turns out that it's wrong, well then I guess that I need to relook at what it is that I'm looking at. So I don't mean to go about that in a roundabout way, but it seems like anytime I bring up anything spiritually, it tends to be it tends to cause a little bit of ruckus. So I want to tell you guys about something personal that's happening in my life, because it's something that's been bothering me, and it was one of the things I was looking forward to having a conversation with you guys, and maybe I can even get you guys to help out. So you guys remember my best friend I talk about, Paul? Well, he's the guy that did the black site thing that I talked about a couple months ago. I mean, the cat's out of the bag. I especially after what just happened. So he has been training Governor Abbott's security detail, and one of the guys on his security detail happens to be a fanatical Christian. I think that there's something more to it, and I think that it needs to kind of like dive into it more. But this guy, because Paul is a pagan, he's into Nordic mythology, and he's learned different languages. Apparently, he knows a little bit of Russian. That this guy felt justified as a Christian fanatic because he is a Russian heathen sympathizer. He knew that he probably wouldn't make it through. So he shot Paul with a venom-laced bullet. And so he goes into the hospital about 5-6 days ago, has the bullet removed. They think that it's a rattlesnake. Turns out to be a hog snake, mixed with nightshade and something else. And I've got to get the list of ingredients that Paul needs. But Paul is looking for specific ingredients to work as a counter agent, because the doctors are proving to be absolutely incompetent. He went into the hospital 2 days ago, apparently he dropped on his face, and he dropped on his face, and his uncle ran him to Baylor Medical as quickly as possible. Apparently Governor Abbott shows up, asks a couple questions, and then just walks away. I think that there's something nefarious going on, but that's just my paranoia. I don't trust Governor Abbott anyways, especially after seeing him as a dictator during the cough. So he needs. I know he was needing certain herbs and certain plants in order to be able to make the remedy, and they have to be native, and they have to be fresh and stuff like that. If I will make a short about it because he's sleeping right now. He'd been up for like almost a week because he was in so much pain, and they had to remove the rest of the bullet from his shoulder blade. And apparently when you get when you get hog snake venom, it gives you a woody for about 7 hours. So it's funny, could you imagine getting shot and walking around with sporting wood? So anyways, I would like to ask you guys for your help on that if you guys have access to those plants and those herbs. My own perfect medicine. Okay, I will have to. I'll have to recommend that to Paul. But this is something that I'm really. He's my best friend. He's pretty much the closest friend I have. He's like a brother to me. I mean, he's the only person, in some ways he's more fucked up than I am. And he's the only person that gets the crazy stuff that I think about sometimes. And I'm the only one that really gets some of the crazy stuff he thinks about. That's why we connect so well. And I would hate to lose him because of some fanatical Christian on their own personal crusade. Because the guy wrote a note. There was a note that was found on the guy that explained why he did it, and this is why we know that he was a fanatical Christian and he was doing it because he was going after a heathen Russian. So, and that really bothers me. That's part of the reason why I skirt away from Christianity, is because of the fanaticism in any religion. It's not just Christianity. Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, they all have their fanatics. And your fanatics is really what makes religion dangerous, because it does more damage and takes away. They're shrouding themselves in the name of, it's like our politicians. They cover themselves in the flag, saying that they're doing it for America, when really they're only lining their own pockets. So this is something that really kind of gets to me. And I will make a short about it, of the ingredients that are needed. If you can help, you can send me an email, and I will give you an address to mail it to, because you're gonna have to mail it to him, not to me, because he's in Texas and I'm in Alabama. So he was supposed to be coming out to meet me, but the day that he was supposed to be coming out was the day that he dropped on his face. So, but anyways, guys, I am going to end with that, because I've got about another 7 miles to walk before I get to my next destination, which is Mount Zion Methodist Church. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. If you are a subscriber, make sure you hit that bell notification. If you would like to have a more in-depth conversation with me, come on over to Patreon. That's what it's for. I have a different conversation with you guys over there than I do here. It's more personal. It's more open, because I'm just, I don't have to worry about censorship and all those other things over there, because it's behind a pay site. It's $5 a month for the Patreon videos, Patreon only videos, and it is $10 a month if you want the live stream replays. Also, you got the tip jar, of course, and you've got the affiliate links, which it is what it is. So before I completely close this out, does anybody have any questions for me before I let you guys go? I'm gonna have me a fry while I'm watching. Man, they're cold. But it was important. I promised you guys that I would do a video, or I would do a live stream as soon as I got a chance. Well, thank you, BZ. Now, I will be doing a lot more live streams along the way, because of how good the signal is here in Alabama, and the fact that I get all these other things. I think it'll be easier, and it'll give me a reason to take a long break so that I can rest my body and rest my feet. So makes snake venom serum within 15 minutes. Drink your urine for cure. I will have to tell him that one. But this happened a while. This happened like about less than a week ago, like a day or two shyer than a week. But that's one thing I'll have to let him know. So within 15 minutes, just drink your own pee, huh? That's interesting. Okay, guys, thank you for watching. This video will be up for a couple of hours before it goes behind the paywall at Patreon, so that if you need to go back and watch it from the beginning, you can. I will see you guys in a few days for the next live stream video, and I will be uploading videos quite frequently as I'm doing the road walk. If you guys have any questions, don't forget to put them in the comments section so that I can answer them in video format. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.